So Inflection Resources, a relatively new company in terms of being listed in July this year, but the company in itself has actually been around since late 2017. So there's been a lot of work in the shadows as a private company, and finally we're fully funded and ready to drill, or drilling in fact. I will be making a ton of forward-looking statements, so please be aware of that. In terms of where we are, we're in Eastern Australia. For the most part, we're in northern New South Wales, and pretty much most things I'll talk about today are northern New South Wales, but we've also got a large data initiative in southern New South Wales as well, which is exploiting a large database that's being compiled by the government of New South Wales and is available for any groups to come in and download and interpret. And we're using our proprietary technology to analyze this big database to generate new targets. We've also got a project in far north Queensland called Karen, which is targeting high-grade gold veins under shallow cover, extension from a historic gold mining camp. But for the most part, I'm going to be talking about a program we have targeting large gold and copper gold porphyry systems, for the most part in northern New South Wales, where we've built a large portfolio of 100% owned projects that are being drilled right now. In terms of the corporate structure, so we're recently listed, currently got 57 million shares outstanding. You know, for an early stage company, we've got great institutional support. Our big shareholder is Resource Capital. We've got Sprott in as well, and a group out of the Netherlands called Plethora. But key takeaway here is, you know, insiders and the technical group that originated the idea. We have about 43% of the company as well. In terms of the people, I won't go through the whole team in the spirit of time, but I'll just draw your attention to Wendell Zerb, the chairman of the company. So Wendell's a name that's well known in North America. He was the former head mining analyst for Canaccord and Pacific International. Also, Stu Smith. Stuart was the head of technical director for new projects for Teck for a number of years, based out of Vancouver, and got a lot of very relevant experience in the belt of rocks in which we're exploring. But great technical board, and great to have them on board. So why is a little Canadian company poking around in Eastern Australia? Well, we're targeting a belt of rocks called the Macquarie Arc. This is a belt of rocks, relatively young volcanic rocks, which host a whole series of big mines. The big one in the belt is the Cadia operation. This is Newcrest Mining's their flagship mine. We've got Evolution Mining's Lake Cowell operation as well. He's another big gold mine. And then we've got the North Parkes operations, the former Rio Tinto mine, now owned by China Moly. But the point is, some very big mines and a big belt of rocks that's got a lot of gold through it. And those yellow spots you can see on the image represent all the documented gold occurrences. But really, what I'm going to be talking mostly about is the area to the north that's covered in that orange cover. So the big belt of rocks disappears under young sedimentary cover, which is masking the underlying favorable geology. Just in terms of infrastructure, I mean, we've heard this already today, but you know, we're in a great part of the world. New South Wales is bending over backwards to work with us, and it's a very mining-friendly jurisdiction. Great infrastructure. We've got paved roads, power lines, rail lines even, and the point is this makes very cost-effective and simple exploration. There's no seasonality things to deal with here. This is we can operate year-round, and very, very simple terrain. For the most part, we're dealing with large cattle stations and very large commercial farms, so a great place to explore. In terms of where we are, we've got these two major initiatives in New South Wales. I'll talk mostly about the Northern Initiative, and you can again see that orange sort of hatch there. That is the young sedimentary cover, but we've built over 500,000 hectares of ground over the last couple of years or so. And one of the key takeaways here is everything is 100% owned by the company. So there's no underlying joint ventures or deals and whatnot. This is a very simple story in that respect. It's all clean and simple. And then we've got our large data initiative in the southern parts of the belt. But we are the biggest landholders, I believe, in this part of the world, which is quite incredible considering, you know, we're surrounded by a lot of big companies. And one of the key messages here really is, we're exploring a belt of rocks where the major miners are already operating and are exploring. So in the belt, it's Rio Tinto, Newcrest, Freeport, Newmont, Fortescue, etc. These are big, big companies looking for big copper gold deposits. So that was part of the rationale for going here. I won't again dwell on this too long, but this is very much a technical story, and Douglas Haynes is the key driver behind this, and Douglas works with three other gentlemen, but Douglas was the former chief geologist for Western Mining Corp, which was a very iconic Australian mining group, was a very successful explorer and miner, but he'd been involved in a number of big discoveries throughout his career, most notably the big Olympic Dam deposit currently being operated by BHP. But very technical story, and there's a lot of great geoscience behind the targeting that went into this. And if there's one key image here in the whole presentation that I would leave you with, this is really it. And this was the opportunity. So to encourage investment in exploration and mining, the government in New South Wales flew the whole state with airborne magnetics, and it's very high quality airborne magnetics flown on 400-meter space lines. And on the right, we see the magnetic image, and on the left, a simplified geological image. And what this really demonstrated is the key belt of volcanic rocks extended under this younger sedimentary cover, which is masking the favorable geology. And that's what Douglas Haynes and his team recognized. Well, it was long recognized, but we hadn't really seen it in such graphic detail. And with this, there was a very detailed interpretation of the geology, and a lot of the key volcanics were extrapolated to extend under the cover. And Douglas and his team identified 20 very large targets. And we are targeting large deposits here. For the most part, these are porphyry systems. There's some vein type targets as well. But the point is, these were identified using 400-meter space magnetics. So we really are targeting tier 1 scale type deposits. We're really, as you say, Eric, swinging from the fences, and are really targeting big deposits here. And what we did, so we did the original targeting of 400-meter space lines. Late last year, we flew all of our individual targets then at 100-meter space lines with our own magnetic survey. And this enabled us to prioritize and build a geological model around each individual target. So we've developed a thesis for each one. And now we're doing a very systematic and disciplined drill program testing the 20 targets with an initial first pass 38 drill holes. And this really gives you a sense of some of the individual targets. So right now we're focusing right in that southern part of the belt. You can sort of see on that little map that's there, but these are big footprints. And one of the key things here is how we're drill testing these things, and how can we test so many targets so cost effectively. And what we're using is mud rotary drilling, which is essentially a fairly crude form of drilling to drill down through the sedimentary cover. So we drill down for about $50 Australian dollars per meter until we hit the bedrock, and then we transition with the same drill to diamond drilling, and we can drill for about $150 per meter from then on in. But the point is, we're drilling each hole for approximately about $18,000 to $20,000. So we're getting a lot of bang for our buck. We're not doing massively deep drill holes at this point. We're essentially taking little samples of the bedrock, and we're using that to then vector into where we need to be. Each of these, particularly these intrusion-related targets or porphyry targets, has got a very distinctive alteration halo around them, and there should be nothing really that subtle about it. So we're taking lots of samples of the bedrock with a view of being able to vector into where we need to be. And we just announced in September on our very first target, we actually hit some favorable alteration, and we hit sniffs of chalcopyrite and bornite, and we've got the favorable vein sets as well, but we just didn't quite hit the main zone. But right now we've applied for a whole series of step out holes for the permitting process, and we aim to get that going in the next few weeks. But the point is, right now we're systematically drill testing this whole series of targets, starting from the south and progressively working our way north. But it's very much a portfolio approach, and ultimately, these are geophysical anomalies. So we think having significant number of targets sort of tilts the odds of success in our favor. And critically, if we don't hit what we need to see very, very quickly with these first pass holes, we will move on and drop the ground and move on to the next one as quickly and as cost effective as possible. So that's really the lion's share of the story right there. I'll just quickly touch on another project. We've got Karen project in Queensland. So this was also generated by Douglas Haynes and his team, but very similar story, but a long trend from a historical gold mining camp called the Croydon Goldfields, which was known for very, very high grade veins, grading up about an ounce of gold. And this was mined out by the old timers in the turn of the previous century, but ultimately chasing targets under shallow sedimentary cover again. And we've got a very simple geological map here on the right-hand side with a geophysical magnetic map on the left. So what you can see here, all those yellow spots you see on the geological map represent known gold workings, and they're broadly trending northwest. And then we've got this yellow color on the geological map represents young sedimentary cover that's sitting on top of the fabled geology. And what Douglas and his team recognized is that sitting out under this shallow cover, there was some very dominant and highly analogous looking structures comparable to the Croydon Goldfields just to the south. And that was ground was staked. We then flew that whole 30 kilometers. So we've got essentially a 30-kilometer long zone here of highly altered structures. And we flew that with airborne magnetics at 50-meter space lines, built a beautiful geological model and high-resolution magnetic model. And we've developed 11 high-priority drill targets here, which we're going to systematically drill test later this year. But this is really going to be ticking along the background while we're focusing our efforts in northern New South Wales, targeting those big porphyry systems for the most part. So really just to wrap up here, I mean, it is very much a technically driven story. There's some great geoscience behind this and a lot of time and effort has gone into developing these targets. You know, we're doing it obviously in a great jurisdiction that's encouraging investment, and you know, we're home to a whole series of major mines and in a belt of rocks where the major miners want to ultimately own mines. 100% ownership of the assets. You know, I think we're a little bit unusual on the fact that these are targets we've staked ourselves or on open ground. And right now we are systematically drilling. So, you know, there is going to be a steady stream of news flow from this ongoing drill program over the next good few months. So that's really it. If there's any questions, you know, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. Very happy to chat to anybody.